is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Drop-In. I'm so stoked to have my buddy Jay here. Our relationship has just been freaking awesome over the last number of years. And as we got going in the Better Rate Mortgage Studios, I'm like, Jay, will you come back on the show? I know we've done stuff in the past, but I think we can even build on what this guy brings to the table. So I'm not even going to talk too much to open this show. Let's get right into it. Jay, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, anytime, man. I always love hanging out with you. I had to represent my Purple Heart. Yeah, I'm always here for you.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule because you are a man who wears several hats and do a lot. You're always going. You're always doing things. But, before we even get into it, I have to ask you a couple questions that are on my mind.
For sure.
First, and we're going to talk wrestling to open the show, but I want to ask, where did the name Eddie Venom come from?
Well, you'd be surprised. A lot of pro wrestlers are big comic book nerds, just like me. And so I was, I've always been a Spider-Man guy. Venom was a great character, and Venom's real name was Eddie Brock. I have a Venom tattoo on my shoulder, and so when I first started out, I was like, I'm going to be Eddie Venom, and just kind of clicked, and I kept that. I started out first, I was wrestling because I was doing actually a lot of stuff with a local radio show at the time called Dominski and Doyle, and I was Jay the Cable Guy. I was a character on there. I did a lot of weird stuff. They pepper sprayed me one time, did all sorts of crazy stuff, and I took that character in when I started wrestling, but it just wasn't a viable character for wrestling. It was cute, but not something that could be serious, so I changed the name that actually at Warped Tour one year. We wrestled at Warped Tour in the parking lot of Pontiac Silverdome, and that's when I officially killed off the Jay the Cable Guy character and became Eddie Venom.
Right on. It had to be a year and a half ago. You and I were playing hockey together. We did some filming out in Troy, and my buddy Will came with us that day, and he was so psyched on it. So I know Will's going to enjoy that little where the name came from, but he probably already knows. He was a huge fan, and that day, he still talks about it to this day, getting awesome on the ice with you.
That was a great time. That was another thing that we did for a local kid, and that was for his Eagle Scout badge, I believe. He was doing this whole video of safety things and things like that for hockey. It was a really cool experience to be involved with. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a cool day. But let's get right to the meat, actually to the beginning of how you started or got into professional wrestling.
Well, I was always a big wrestling fan growing up. Saturday mornings watching Hulk Hogan and Undertaker go at it and Macho Man Savage. So I was always a huge fan. The Attitude Era in the 90s really kind of ramped up it kind of made it more of an adult kind of thing. So as I grew, the wrestling kind of grew as well. And I always loved it, and I always wanted to be a part of it, but I never knew how. I used to live in Florida, and I remember I met a wrestler through a radio show. I called in, and he said, yeah, there's wrestling schools that you go to. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So when I came back to Michigan, I was doing stuff with that Dominski and Doyle group, actually, and I met a local wrestler through there, and we did a wing eating contest. And so I got to talking to him. Man, I've always loved wrestling. And he told me some things. He told me where a school was. I went online that night, found a wrestling school, and started right from there, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. And how tall are you?
About 6'6.5", 6'7", depending on how bad my back hurts that day.
And think about that, 6'6", 6'7" on ice skates. Dude plays hockey. We have played a few times together, and you're coming by Jay. You better get all the way over by the boards to get by him between his wingspan, stick length, height. You got to get around him.
I try to cover a lot of space,
And you do. I think it was in the last year or so, I watched some wrestling documentaries, and definitely down south, fans take wrestling very seriously. People have been stabbed. There's been crazy stuff that goes on outside the ring, in their personal lives, in restaurants. Any stories about just a fan who maybe took it a little too far, maybe?
Well, there's been quite a few times. Usually, I was always a heel. I'm the big guy. It's harder to make me a baby face as far as for a baby face for a really good guy, you have to be able to build sympathy for that character during the match, right? And it's not very believable having somebody smaller unless they're super cheating and things like that, to be beating me down to enough to where it would get sympathy from the crowd to like, we got to get this guy to beat this bad guy, that kind of thing. So I was really good at being a bad guy. I was really good at making people hate me. It was fun. Especially with the wrestling, most of the time with the fans and things like that, they know it's a show. So they'll give it to you during the show, but then afterward they'll come up and shake your hand and buy you a t-shirt and things like that. But there have been some, I remember specifically me and some other guys, we were a group in Ohio. We were called the Michigan Invasion. We would always rip on Ohio State. And, and we were in Lima, Ohio, not too far from Dayton. We're in the heart of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd come out with our Michigan gear and we'd come out to the U of M fight song just to rub it in. Well, one day we decided to really take it up a notch. And we took a steel garbage can out to the ring with us. And we were on the mic talking trash like we do. And we pulled out an Ohio State flag. And we decided to set it on fire. That drew a little bit of attention. There were several people trying to reach under the ropes and grab at us and to try to save the flag. And that was one of the hottest that it's been, where that heat just from the crowd, that anger, man. You try to mess with their Ohio State, they'll go after you.
Yeah.
But we still won. Go Blue.
But the fans are so passionate. I grew up about the same era you did, and my dad loved wrestling, so I got to visit. We actually were at WrestleMania 3.
Nice.
And my dad was psyched on Hulk Hogan. I like Jimmy Superfly Snuka or the British Bulldogs.
I've done shows with Jimmy Snuka before he passed away. He was an interesting dude for sure.
He was gnarly in the ring, and I love doing stuff with my dad, so I paid attention to wrestling, and we got to do some cool stuff. You have had some amazing opportunities on that stage, on the WrestleMania stage. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was the coolest thing about my wrestling career, is getting to come up in the business and becoming friends with these guys that I grew up watching. Guys like, I've got to wrestle the Steiner brothers. I've got to wrestle Road Warrior Hawk, Tito Santana, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hacksaw Jim Duggan's a good buddy of mine, and to grow up watching these guys and become friends with them and get to wrestle them has been seriously amazing. But my favorite all time was always The Undertaker. So whenever WWE goes to a town, they'll bring in extra talent, their local guys, whether they need them to play security guards or whatever it is. So a couple of occasions they would come to Detroit, and I got to play one of the Undertaker's druids. Once for Saturday Night Main Event when it was at Cobo Hall, and then once for WrestleMania at Ford Field. So I got to be a druid and carry a torch out to the ring for his entrance. And anybody that's seen a WrestleMania entrance, especially for Undertaker, knows how dramatic it is with the music and the fire and everything. So yeah, I'm dressed as a druid, and I walk out to the stage with a burning torch, trying not to burn the guy in front of me. And I walk out, and there's 85,000 people. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty amazing that they could do this. And that's an experience, obviously, I'll never forget. It was amazing.
That energy, 85,000 people. Like, I have goosebumps, like, just thinking about what that had to be like.
And I remember, I think the main event was Shawn Michaels versus John Cena. And they did this whole thing with John Cena driving a Mustang through they did a pre-film where he's driving through the streets of Detroit, and then he comes roaring out of the tunnel, and just hearing how electric that crowd gets. I've done big shows. I've got to wrestle at Joe Louis before it was torn down in front of 12 to 15,000 people, but 85,000 people just going insane. It's something. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, you go to one of those shows, you're going to have a good time, and you're just going to feel that electricity and feel what it's all about. It's amazing.
Well, and it is. It's incredible that the energy that is there is just, I mean, it's almost like a playoff hockey game.
Yeah.
You go to a playoff hockey game, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's different than a regular season game.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same thing. I've been there for football games, and there's great energy, but it's just a different energy when it's something like that. And yeah, that's a good analogy, playoff hockey, because it ramps up. It's you're usually at this level, but that's, especially with WrestleMania, that's the big show for the year. So you're taking it up to a whole different level, and it's It's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think what is it, like 14.7 pounds of weight, like in the atmosphere. The weight at those kinds of events is more than that 14.7 pounds. You can feel it.
The air is thick. You know what I mean? It's such a cool vibe. You know, it's like and just to be a part of it. You know, you see it on TV, but it's when you're there. No matter what capacity you're there, whether you're there as a fan, whether you're there as a vendor, whether you're there as what I was doing, you just feel like you're part of something special.
Yeah.
You know, it's very, very cool.
Now, at that time, there was a dude that used to like enter the ring with Undertaker, Paul Bearer. Was he there then?
No, he wasn't there.
Have you ever seen that guy? Like, he looks crazy on TV.
He was from Ohio. I mean, I've done local shows with him. The guy, his name was Paul Moody, and he was an actual Undertaker, or he was an actual mortician.
For real?
Yeah, that he had a license and more. Yeah, if you ever get a chance, WWE has a great documentary on their network about him. He was literally a mortician, and that's what he did. And they make the joke is when you get hired by Vince McMahon, if you don't want to do something, don't tell him you know how to do it. Because of course, obviously, he says, yeah, I'm a mortician. Of course, Vince McMahon's like, oh, well, that's a character right there. We could use that absolutely. So he wasn't there at that time, but I have met him at other times, and he had passed away a few years ago. He was a great guy, though. He was hilarious. He was super funny. Percy Pringle used to work as way back in the day, and he was just so talented and just a great guy.
Yeah, on TV is so animated. He played that character to a T.
Yeah, and if you ever look up some of his early stuff as Percy Pringle, he was in a different character, but completely intense as well. I mean, he put his heart into it. He's one of those guys. He's not one of those guys that are just going through the motions. You know what I mean? He put his heart and soul into it.
Well, and I think especially on that stage, you have to. Have to be all in.
Yeah, and that's why he lasted so long. That's why The Undertaker lasted so long, because of that. Once you're able, if you put in your heart and your soul, the fans recognize that. So even if you're a bad guy, you know, whatever it is, even if they're not necessarily a fan of you, they still recognize what you put into it, and they respect that.
Yeah, and that's with anything in life. You know, you're passionate, you're driven about whatever it is. People will recognize that. You know, for me on a skateboard, people are like, you have fun, you enjoy what you're doing. It radiates, and again, no matter what, if it's in the ring, on a skateboard, drawing pictures in front of a camera, ballerina, whatever you are, people will feel that passion. It really shines through, and that's one of the greatest things to take away from this show. The folks that come and visit the drop-in, they're passionate about what they're doing. They love what they're doing. Jay loves what he's doing today. I mean, dude, like I said, we're going to talk about the different hats that he has had the opportunity to really take advantage of and reach out, especially some of the charity work that he's doing. We're going to get into that. But I want to talk about the injuries in the ring, because you are totally invested, not only in the show, in what you're learning as far as choreographed stuff, but I mean, it's a physical, it's no joke.
Oh, absolutely. People always love to say, oh, pro wrestling, that's fake. And anytime I hear it, I call that the F word, because I wish it was fake, to be honest, at sometimes, because yes, pro wrestling is scripted. It's predetermined, the outcomes, but what we do in the ring, we were beating the crap out of each other. I mean, there's no way to fake being picked up. Like you said, I'm 6'7". If I pick you up over my head and I slam you down to the mat, there's a little bit of padding, but there's no way to fake that.
Yeah, you're still dropping 11 feet.
When you're getting hit with a steel chair, there's no way to fake that. You're getting hit. And as the wrestling fans became smarter about, and we say it could sound derogatory. It's not a derogatory. What we say is once you know that the business is predetermined, that it's a work, then you become smart to the business. That's what we call it. So I don't want it to sound derogatory, but once you become smart to the business, it changes. So people know that, they can tell now if you're not putting it into it, So it's gotten a little bit more physical over the years. Well, a lot more physical over the years, but that's why you'll see a lot of this especially on TV, where it's like, man, they look like they're really hitting each other. No, it doesn't look like they're really hitting each other. They really are hitting each other. They're pounding on each other. So yeah, I've had several injuries. I used to break my fingers every once in a while. I would break my nose every few months. From an errant punch, somebody hit me wrong or whatever. I broke my tibia at one point. I fractured that. Concussions, obviously. But the worst injury I ever had, April 15th of 2011, I actually broke my back in the ring during a match.
Broke your back?
Yeah, I broke one vertebrae and I crushed another one. And I didn't know exactly what happened at the time. I actually finished the match.
That's what I'm talking about. That's just one of the many reasons Jay is sitting in the drop-in studios.
But that's the thing, because this show was a hot show. It was at a high school. It was a charity show, just filled with high school kids that were super into it. And my own, I don't know if it's ego or whatever it is, but I'm like, I got to give these kids. So I'm not going to bum these kids out by being hurt and not being able to finish a match. I got to finish this match. So it was a tag team match. Me and my best friend, we were tagging up against a couple guys. And it was just a fluke thing. I had the guy on my shoulders, his back laying across my shoulders like a torture rack, like Lex Luger used to do. And it's the move is I just like sit down. And he slides off my shoulders, but it looks like it's like a backbreaker on him. Well, it was just a fluke thing. He had his legs wrapped around my arms a little bit too much. And so when I went down, all of his weight stayed on my shoulders and compressed my back. And it broke one vertebrae and it crushed another one. Like I said, I knew I was hurt, but I was like, we only got a couple minutes left. Let's just finish out the match.
Adrenaline's rocking.
Exactly.
You're in it, the energy.
Exactly. So we ended up finishing the match, and I walked in, and then my partner, we won the tag belts. So he's like, let's go celebrate in the crowd. So I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So I'm like climbing up the bleachers and celebrating with these kids, and I'm just in so much pain. And I'm like, yeah. And then as soon as we get through the curtain, I just fall down. I'm like, oh my goodness. So I didn't know exactly what happened, but I'm also not one of those guys that goes to the doctor a lot, unfortunately. So my wife, she's like, well, let's go to the hospital. I'm like, nah, we'll give it a couple days, see how it feels. So I went home. The next day, obviously I couldn't move. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the hospital. So we went. I thought I'd just get some x-rays. They did an MRI, and it turns out one vertebrae was crushed to the point where they said I lost like 10% height on it from it being squished down, and the other one broke so that if you look at it, a disc is round. If you look at it from overhead, it looked like a peace sign. It was crazy, but I was lucky. It's so weird to say, you're lucky when you break your back, but nothing shifted. So I was super lucky. I didn't have to have surgery. I just had to rehab, and I'll never be back to 100%, but I'm 85 to 90%, and I can deal with that.
Right on. And I think, you're saying, you knew something was wrong, but you kept on, you did your thing. I think especially in action sports, wrestling, extreme sports, skateboarding, BMX, I mean, even ice hockey, we watched dudes with broken legs play the finish out a 40-second shift.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a broken leg, you know? I think with everything combined in that moment, we can surpass and do some incredible things, which you did to finish the match, even climb in the crowd and celebrate.
And that's the thing. That's the kind of thing that you always talk about. It's if you have that passion and you have that drive, you don't let those things stop you. You know what I mean? It's like I said, this it was a high school full of kids that were having the time of their lives. I'm not going to mess that up. I don't want to bring some kind of thing down to make that evening stand out to them in a negative way. So you suck it up and you do what you do and you get it done.
So, that happens. You end up, going through rehab, getting back to where you can actually function at life. At that point, you cash it in. You're going to sit on the couch like with a warm blanket and some warm milk and just call it, I'm done with any of that.
So much to my wife's anger at the time, I was back in the ring cutting a promo in about 2.5, 3 weeks. I got on the mic and I, told the promoters that I work for, because I was involved in some storylines at the time and stuff like that. So I told them I can't do a whole lot, but I can get in, I can talk trash to the audience. I can be a part of it. So That's what I did. I did that until I was healthy enough to where I could get in the ring and do some like tag matches, slot tag matches where I'm the big guy, so I can just stay on the outside most of the time. They just tag me at the end. I just boom, 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 end it. So until I was slowly healing to the point where I could finally do full matches and get back to normal. So.
Freaking incredible. Incredible, Jay.
You got to make things that, like I said, I mean, you got to find a way. If you can't do something, you just find a way. You find a way around it. If something's in your way, you have to find your way around it. And that's what we, it takes a long time to learn. I didn't start out that way. It took a long time to get to that point. But once you get to that point, you got to, you want to do something, that it's your passion. You're going to find that way around it. You're going to find a way, no matter what life obstacles they put in your way, you're going to find a way around it.
Right. And the human body is incredible.
Oh,
incredible.
It's the mind. I mean, when you think you can't do something and then it turns out you do, and it sometimes I'm blown away. I'm like, I can't believe I did that, but it's if your mind is strong enough to push you to do that, it might not always be good for your body, but you can do it.
Right. I think it was Henry Ford that said, if you think you can or you think you can't,
you're right.
You're right.
Yep,
and
exactly.
and that is so true, especially in the healing process. I've experienced it, and I'm sure you have. When you have a positive mindset on the outcome, you heal quicker, you heal stronger. Doctors even back it up now. They say, 80% of the healing as people come into surgery or out of surgery is their mindset and their confidence in the doctor's ability, but their confidence in their own physiology.
Right. And that's the thing too. You have to have that because I could have just sat on the couch and done nothing. But what would that accomplish? You know what I mean? It would have made me not heal as quickly as I did and as well as I did. And it would have put me in a deeper mental state to where I might not ever come back. You know what I mean? Even if you heal physically, you don't always heal mentally. So it would have been easy to do that, but it wasn't my turn. It wasn't my time to do that. I still had stuff I had to do. You know what I mean?
Speaking of that's a perfect segue into our next thing. How did you get into the stunt world? I mean, it seems like a natural progression to most people, but I mean, you're wrestling, you're at WrestleMania, you break your freaking back, and that's before you become a stuntman in films and other things. How did that transition happen?
Well, I've always been a huge movie fan. I love cinema. I love the fantasy of it. I love being able to go and, for a couple hours, you can, you're literally transported to a different place, So I've always been a fan of film and things like that. But, growing up in Detroit, you figure that's a Hollywood thing. That's not something that's actually achievable. Well, at the time, Michigan had a good tax credit for films. So filming is going to go wherever it's the cheapest, and if they get tax credits, they're going to go there. So all of a sudden, Michigan for a few years had tons of films being filmed here, all over the state. So one of my best friends, Zach Gowen, who is a one-legged wrestler, should have him on. He's great. He was the world's first one-legged pro wrestler.
Future show. I guarantee we'll get him in here in the drop-in studio.
Absolutely. And now he goes and he's a motivational speaker and goes around the country. So I'm going to hook you up with him. But he has one leg, and he was hired by a stunt coordinator for a war movie to do a stunt to where they would blow off his fake leg with a cannon. And I was like, I was so mesmerized. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be because when I was a kid, I remember in 9th grade, I was always the quirky kid. I was always, jumping around doing stuff. And I would literally jump and do barrel dives over desks and things like that. And people are like, what are you doing? I was like, I want to be a stuntman when I grow up. Saying that, but still in the back of my mind thinking, oh, that's not achievable. Mm-hmm. That's a Hollywood thing. So I was mesmerized by it. And I was like, can you introduce me to the stunt coordinator? And he did. And I talked with him. I learned a lot from him. He introduced me to some other stunt coordinators. I started training with some local guys to kind of transition from the pro wrestling to the combat on film, to fighting on film. It's a little bit different, and just started training like crazy. And hustling, meeting coordinators wherever I can, and finally started getting hired a little bit at a time. And once my name got out there more, I started getting hired more and more, and then been doing that ever since. So once that took off, I retired from the pro wrestling. I maybe do 1 or 2 shows a year just for fun, but don't do it full time anymore. And now I do the stunt work.
Now, the Michigan tax credit thing. What was that, like 5, 6, 7 years ago? I forget.
Yeah, it was a while ago. It was when Granholm was still in office.
Yeah.
So she's the one that started it. I got in right at the very tail end. So as soon as I get into the business and start working in film, a new governor came in and he got rid of the tax credits. So as soon as he did, all the filming basically left town. So there's some local things that film and things like that that are lower budget, things like that. But the higher budget, big ticket movies, they weren't coming here anymore. So I work a lot in New York, Chicago, Pittsburgh is a big filming area, stuff like that. And I love working in those areas. It's great. But I also like sleeping in my own bed at night.
Right.
So I'm actually part of a group called MIFIA, which is the Michigan Film. I don't even remember MIFIA.org. And what it is, it's a bunch of union people. I'm on the actually local board of our actors union, which is the Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA. And we wrote up a new bill for a new tax credit. The old tax credit, in all honesty, it wasn't sustainable. It was giving way too much and we weren't getting enough back. So it did need to go away. But now we have a new one that's based on the Georgia tax credit bill. And if you know anything about film, there's so much stuff being filmed in Atlanta right now. It's ridiculous. All your big Walking Dead, all the Marvel movies, all those, they all film in Atlanta because their tax credit is so good. So we've written a tax credit that it kind of mirrors theirs, but it gives more incentives for hiring Michigan local residents. That's what we want to do. A lot of people think, we need to bring Hollywood to Michigan. They don't realize how many jobs that this will bring. Not only actors and things like that, but every film has electricians, has carpenters, has drivers, has caterers. There are so many residual jobs that are created from the film industry. We think it's a great thing for Michigan, and we're really hoping that we just entered it in, and it's going to be voted on pretty soon. So anybody interested, we'd love you to go to mifia.org, and you can donate and help learn how to talk to your congresspeople and tell them, hey, we want this jobs bill passed. So hopefully that'll work out, and we'll get a lot more film in here, and hopefully I can work and sleep in my own bed sometimes.
Yeah. Now, early on, because it is such a relationship-based business, was it difficult for you to get your name out there, to get jobs? Were you sending emails, your agent hustling for you? How did you go about that? And this is for you guys at home. If you're sitting there going, man, I want to be a stuntman, how did he do it? Outside of the Michigan opportunities, how did he get his name even out there? Did he go and walk the streets? Like, what did you do?
And what we do is, it is called hustling. Obviously, pre-COVID is a lot different. Stunt people would actually go to sets where stunt coordinators would be at, wait for them not to be busy, and we'd give them our headshot and resume and introduce ourselves and say, hey, we'd love to, I'd love to meet work with you, things like that. It's changed a lot because of COVID and everything like that. Films are pretty much shut down as far as who can get on set and things like that with COVID regulations and things like that. So a lot of it is just internet. We have different databases and things like that where it'll show all the different productions and who's the stunt coordinator. And I'll send emails all over the place. I'll send email to coordinators that I know, to ones that I don't know, to introduce myself and say, I'd love to work with you. And the coordinators it's a big community, but it's not, you know what I mean? Everybody kind of knows each other, especially with stunts, because it is so dangerous. You have to rely on somebody, for your life. So stunts is a lot different than acting. So the coordinator has to be comfortable with you, that knows that you're going to be able to do the stunts and do it safely and make it look good. So stunt coordinators, once you start working with them and they like you, when you email another coordinator, they'll say, hey, do you know this guy? Have you worked with him? Yeah. So it's all word of mouth. It's all just getting your name out there. being respectful, being a good worker, being on time, doing what you're supposed to do. And like you said, people see that.
Developing a trust too. I think you hit the nail on the head where, there could be somebody, totally go off the rails. And how do you trust that? But when people develop a trust with you, they say, oh yeah, Jay, come in here. He's going to, everything you just said, be respectful, do what we need him to do, maybe offer a little insight, but he's going to stick within our guidelines and not like do something crazy.
And also too, you want to make sure that people are cool to work with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, who wants to work with somebody that's a pain in the butt? And they might be the greatest stunt person, but if they're horrible to be around, they're going to make it miserable. So yeah, people don't want to be around that. So it's all about being being true to yourself, but being a good person and just respecting the art of what you're doing. Because a lot of people, oh, you're just fighting and stuff like that. There's an art to it. It is art, and it's something that's so much fun, and I'm so lucky to be able to do. MIFA actually stands for Michigan Film Industry Association. Sorry about that. I've got so many things running through my head. So.
You are a busy guy, And what you're saying is so impactful. I think for you guys at home, you see people jumping out of buildings, out of planes, and fist fights, and your life could potentially be in danger. And to have that trust and to understand who you're working with has got to be huge.
And that's not even just the film industry. That's everything. As far as being not only working hard at your craft and being the best that you can, but being a decent person too. That in secular work, if I'm going to be hiring somebody, I'd much rather hire that person that is the cool person that's got a great vibe, that's good to be around. It helps you no matter where you are. It helps you in life with whether it's work or anything like that. Just having that vibe where, there's too much negativity in the world, and I'm guilty of it too. I am, but if you just have a good vibe about you, people pick up on that, and the more you have that vibe, the more people want to be around you.
100%. 100%. Now, again, it's some of these questions are my what can I ask Jay on the set? Favorite stunt gig? I know that if anybody watching who has any affiliation with any Star Wars films out there, please find some place for Jay to fit in that, because I know he'd be stoked. I've seen his office. Crazy Star Wars from freaking ceiling to floor. Awesome. But what has, up to this point, because you got ways to go yet, up to this point, favorite stunt gig?
I've been lucky enough to do a lot of cool things. I got to play a cop in Batman vs Superman, so I'm in the DC universe. I also got to play a militia member in Punisher on Marvel, so I'm in the Marvel universe. So now, like you said, I just got to get into a Star Wars gig. I've actually emailed with the coordinator for The Mandalorian, and I'm trying to get on that, but hey, if anybody wants to hire, But probably my favorite gig I did for a couple seasons, I got the stunt double for an actor named Ryan Hurst, who played Opie on Sons of Anarchy. That's what he's famous for. And he played Gary Bertier in Remember the Titans way back in the day. Great guy, but we did a show called Outsiders on WGN for a couple years. I got to be his stunt double for 2 seasons. And it was about a family that lived on a mountain that rode ATVs everywhere. So I literally, for 2 seasons, I just got to ride ATVs through the mountains, do a bunch of fun fight scenes in the mountains, and it was just fantastic. We had such a great crew, such a great cast, and it was just, man, that was such a great 2 summers, man. But that's probably one of my favorites. Punisher was also great just because of all the different stunt people that I got to work with on that episode. There's a bunch of stunt guys being militia members, shooting guns, running through the woods. I mean, just a blast. And just to be able to meet and work with a bunch of these guys that I've seen do other things but never met in person. That's always the coolest to me. I always love meeting new people and working with them.
Yeah, that sounds very cool.
Yeah, it's a blast.
I saw you two together, you and Hirsch, and we were at Comic-Con a couple years ago, and he was signing autographs or doing something. So I got to see you guys side by side. And I can understand why they picked you to fill that role. It
was funny because even before I ever worked for him, I used to have longer hair, and of course I had my big beard. And people always used to say, and this was when he was on Sons of Anarchy, "Oh, you look like Opie." And I had never watched Sons of Anarchy, so I didn't even know what they were talking about. But then later on, this job came up for this new show, And I looked at it and I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. And then and turns out it was that guy that played Obi. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I do kind of look like him. But yeah, it worked out great because I got to do a lot more stuff for him that he didn't necessarily, wasn't necessarily comfortable with. But because we look so similar, they got to do a lot more camera angles where they normally wouldn't. Normally a double stunt double doesn't look. You could tell it's not that person, but luckily we had a strong enough resemblance where we were able to do a lot more with the scenes because they could show a little bit more of my face and get away with it. So it was a lot of fun, and he's an amazing guy. That guy, he teaches Kundalini yoga. I mean, he's a he's a vegan. He does dog rescue. Big tough looking dude, and he's one of the sweetest guys you'll ever meet.
Definitely. At Comic-Con, I totally got that vibe from. We had a little conversation, and great guy,
yeah,
awesome, and it definitely showed there. At least I saw it firsthand that the relationship wasn't just like I'm going to my trailer. You guys actually connected a little bit as well.
Yeah, we have a very we have a very similar way of storytelling too. I believe like we would always with the fight scenes and stuff like that. I would always talk with him about it, feel what kind of vibe he wants out of it. And then once you work with him for a while, you can kind of learn. So I would know certain things to put the fight scene together, and I would do that, and then I would show it to him, and then he would make his tweaks on it and stuff like that. And we had a really good working relationship, I think, because we had a very similar mindset as far as visual storytelling. So he was great to work with.
Yeah, it definitely makes that transition very smooth, and he's fired up on it, you're fired up on it, and that's very important, I think, especially in that field.
Yeah, we got canceled after 2 seasons, unfortunately. I think that had that not happened, that show had the really potential to really blow up. It's too bad it didn't never go at because I think it would have been the next Sons of Anarchy because it was a good show. But you move on to the next thing and go from there.
Yeah. Well, you brought up SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, a little bit. How and why did you get involved with that?
The Screen Actors Guild is the actors union, SAG/AFTRA. AFTRA used to be more the television union. SAG used to be the film union, but they merged back in 2010, I believe it was. But SAG-AFTRA has been so instrumental in helping not only actors, but dancers, singers, stunt people, things like that, with being able to make fair wages and to be able to get health insurance for your family and things like that. So I'm very pro union. I grew up in Detroit. My dad was a UAW member forever. I'm very pro union, but I wanted to get more involved because our local union here in Michigan is full mostly of actors. There's not a lot of stunt people here. And I just wanted the stunt people to have more representation. And so I went out to be part of the board. I got voted in to be part of the board, and I've been doing that for a few years now. And so I do it mostly to give us stunt people some representations and trying to make it better for all of us with new contracts and things like that come up with negotiating and things like that. I just want it better, not only for me, but for all the actors in Michigan. I mean, we have a great talent base here in Michigan. People don't realize it because people think, film, they think New York or Hollywood, but there is such a great talent base here in Michigan and that don't get utilized enough. Not only the actors, but also the crew members, like I said, as well. And I think that if we can get this bill passed and we get some more filming here and things like that, I think it's really going to show people what Michigan can bring to the table. So.
I think it would be wonderful because especially here in our state, we have 4 seasons. We have you can find any setting you want.
Oh, absolutely.
In the peninsula of Michigan. And
in the same day. I mean, you could be shooting in downtown Detroit in the urban, and then you can drive for an hour and be on a beach. And our beaches are beautiful, and
Grand
we have
Haven
woods.
is totally a beach town.
Yeah, so you have so much versatility in the state, not only with locations and things like that, but like I said, with the talent pool, it's just a shame they're not being used as much as they could be. Because, like I said, I think we have a lot to offer, and I think we're going to show that soon. So.
Yeah, super cool. I hope so, because I think it would be wonderful for the state and just rad to see it on screen,
Yeah.
you know, for people who've been around. If you've been to downtown Detroit, spend any time there or anywhere. I mean, if they're shooting in your little town and you get to see that, and when you go to the theater, pop it on at home to stream it, that's a cool feeling.
It gives a sense of pride. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's like, hey, I know where that is. That's my place.
Yep.
You know, and now other people are going to see my place. You know what I mean? And this has been a whole learning thing working with MIFIA, because I'm not a politician. I don't know a ton about legislation and things like that. So I've been learning slowly as we go. My whole thing is I've been trying to help any way I can. So I try to help with getting the word out as far as, you know, donations and things like that, but just trying to get people to just open up their eyes to it and see how many jobs this can bring. It's unbelievable when you break it down, like how many jobs this could help all of Michiganders. And I'm really excited for it. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm just trying to learn what I can. You know what I mean?
Well, and you just said, you know, I'm trying to help this, help. I just want to help. You do a ton with charity work. You know, I always see you doing this or that, or I mean, you're all over the map. If it's a golfing charity, if it's playing hockey, if it's doing something with DMAC, you know, is there any one charity you're specific to, or?
No, you know, I think I told you this when I was on your podcast before. It's like I'm super lucky to be able to do the things I do, to be able to be in the film industry, to be able to travel, to be able to meet some of the people I do. I'm super lucky, and I almost feel like there's an imbalance. You know, I'm too lucky. Like I want other people to, you know, I shouldn't be getting this. Other people should. So my philosophy is always like any charity that needs help, I will give back any way that I can, because I need to balance that out, because I'm getting way too much love. So I need to be able to balance that love out. So I work with all sorts of charities. United Cerebral Palsy of Michigan, Operation Injured Soldiers. I work a lot with the Joe Koser Foundation and the Ted Lindsay Foundation. We do a lot of events with them. I just try to help out with whatever I can. And it's been great because I get to meet other people who do the same thing. And so by doing that, you get to work with other charities, you know what I mean? And you find other charities that you can help out with. And I'll go somewhere and work, you know, if I'm working with Operation Injured Soldiers, and I'll meet somebody there that's also doing another charity event somewhere else, and that, hey, can you come out and help? Absolutely. You know, absolutely. The Ted Lindsay Foundation is such a great foundation that is linked up with the Joe Koser Foundation and the Detroit Red Wings alumni, who I've been lucky enough to be able to do a lot of events with them. And Ted Lindsay Foundation has always been for autism for kids, and that one's one of my favorites as well. Wanted to work with, because seeing these kids come out and how happy they are when we have different, either a golf event or hockey event, things like that. It's just such a blast, man. And the United Cerebral Palsy one is one that's been close to me, simply because I've been doing this for years, but now the last few years I've been actually helping to organize the events as well. You know, we have an event coming up. Well, when this airs, it'll already have happened, but skatewithoutlimits.org is for UCPMichigan.org is also the website. It's United Cerebral Palsy. We do a hockey event every year that you're going to be a part of it this year. We do a sled hockey game, and then a game against the Red Wing. We get the Detroit Red Wing alumni. And every year we do this event and raise close to $40,000 to $50,000 each year for United Cerebral Palsy, which has been a blast. So it's been a lot of fun to be part of, and I'm always willing to help out.
Well, and the two people you brought up, Ted Lindsay. I got to meet Ted Lindsay a few years ago, and what a rad dude! First time I ever met him. For those of you who don't know who Ted Lindsay is, number 7 Red Wing, retired number. He started the Players Union for the NHL.
Yep, NHL
and just a rad dude. Like, when I met him, one, he pronounced my name right, and nobody ever does that. And 2,
it took me years to pronounce your name right.
Well, and 2, he said nice things about Downriver, which is where you and I grew up. Yeah. He's like, man, Downriver people are the best. So I wear number 7 often when I get to play because of Ted Lindsay. And also the other thing is Mike Ward with the hockey event UCP, and UCP. Yep. Just great individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. So I played drop-in with Mike Ward for years, and I always heard him talking about this event, but I never was a part of it. And then finally I was like, hey, this sounds fun. I want to help out. I want to be a part of it. So he had me come out to the event. Actually, the first year, I think I was a ref for the sled hockey game. And then it opened up a spot for the players to play against the alumni, and I did that, and just had so much fun. And I kind of try to get some of my media friends that are in the area. We've been on Channel 2 with Amy Andrews. We've been on Channel 4 with Jamie Edmonds. I think we're going to be on Channel 7 with Brad Galli coming up. And so I've been kind of using my contacts to try to get the word out for that as well. So yeah, it's when you associate yourself with good people, you get to do good things, and then you just feel so much better. It's just such a good feeling. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the better people that, like, when I'm hanging out with you, I can't not be smiling. You know what I mean? It's just when you hang out with good-hearted people, it brings a smile to your face.
Yeah, it is. Like attracts like, and as you do good things, more good opportunities open up. And Jay is talking about it on every level, from wrestling to the stunt world to charity work. As you just you give of yourself, how may I serve? And when you do it without ego and without thinking, what is this going to get me? The opportunities are incredible, are totally incredible and unexpected most of the time.
Well, and that's the thing, because you find out things about yourself. And you find out things that you never would have. You put yourself in positions there. You meet people that you never would have had the opportunity to meet. You get to hear stories that you never would have got to hear. You get to be part of stories that you never would have been able to be a part of. That's some of my favorite things. Is like, somebody will come up to me and they'll be like, "Oh man, years ago you were at a charity event and you talked to me and blah blah blah." That is what does it for me. I'm like, you remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. So to be able to do that, for me, it's awesome to be able to affect anybody's life in a positive way. I mean, it feels great.
Definitely. Now you're 6'6", 6'7" on some days. Is it, what size hockey skates do you wear, and is it difficult to find them?
No, because I'm my regular shoe size is a 13. I wear a 12 hockey skate. 13 is right at the limit, though. I got lucky because my feet stopped growing at 13. Now my son Brendan, he's 22 and he has a 15, and that's harder to find. So I've been lucky. I can usually find the skates. Skates nowadays, I try to get online anyway. I get everything online. It's just easier that way. But I think at 12, if I can get the double E, that usually helps. But
I thought you were gonna say like 15, 17,
I got
like
lucky.
that.
Like I said, my son, he's got a 15, but I got lucky. I'm like right at the 13s you can still find at the store.
Yeah.
After that, then you got to start looking online and stuff like that.
So what's coming, man? Like, you got anything on the docket coming up? I know when this airs, we would already played the hockey game last week, but anything coming up?
Yeah, I got just got the emails are starting to come in for the summer events, the charity events. We have the Operation Injured Soldiers golf outing that's going to be in June with a lot of the Detroit Red Wing alumni, a lot of Lions alumni, and things like that. We've got a lot of things coming up this summer. It's going to be a busy. LPGA is going to be coming up. We do out in Grand Rapids, the LPGA tournament goes on out there, and we do a celebrity pro-am out there. And it's all with Meyer, and Meyer has this event raises a lot of money to feed hungry children. It stocks up food banks and things like that with the money that's raised for it. So it's a really cool event too, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of it. I get to feel famous for a little bit. I'm hanging out with like Trey Wingo from ESPN and Max Schlereth and Mark Schlereth and those guys and a bunch of my Red Wings friends and stuff like that. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Now, see, I'm always like, hey Jay, what's up? 'Cause you're a big dude. Golf clubs, you got to get them custom made, like big.
Yeah, I love golfing, but I'm not great at it, so I don't have the super expensive clubs. But I did have to. I think they're an inch and a half longer than normal size. But anything after that, if I go and get a custom set, I probably will one of these days. But I have other things to spend my money on right now. I'm not good enough to spend that much money on them. You know what I mean? If I was good at it, it'd be one thing. But golf to me is more about having fun than being good at it.
That's the way I feel. My clubs are sort of a mishmash of different things. Chiropractor gave me a club here.
Yeah,
I got my irons, but I have different, and I just have a good time.
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, you go out at 8 a.m. on a beautiful summer day, and you're just out there with your buddies and just having a good time. Even if you're playing like garbage, it's still you're having a good time with your buddies, enjoying being on the outside. Like, there's nothing better than being outside on a summer day and with a nice cool breeze and just enjoying nature, man.
Yeah, I get to golf with my dad often, and it's just awesome. I'm like, Dad, if you want to win, you can fill out the scorecard now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you win. Now let's go have a good time.
Exactly.
And when he developed that mindset, he plays really, really good golf now.
And that's the thing. People stress too much. You just go out there and have fun. And that's all. And you'll end up playing better when you have fun because you're not worrying about all the other stuff.
Definitely. Well, Jay, dude, like I said, opening the show, thank you so much.
Oh man, thank you for having
visiting
me.
us here. You're welcome back anytime you want to come in.
I'll be here next week.
It's gonna soon. It'll be the J&G show, and we'll be changing. But Can you run down again how people can keep an eye on you, where you're at, the SAG stuff, charity stuff, all that?
Yeah, absolutely. JayRAdamsStunts.com is my website. I have a bunch of stuff, a bunch of videos of different film stuff that I've done, and some old wrestling stuff that I've done as well. So JayRAdamsStunts.com. Also, all the social media, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff is at JayRAdamsStunts. If you have any questions as far as with the UCP, UCPMichigan.org. skatewithoutlimits.org, and any of the other things that I might have mentioned, hit me up on Twitter. I can give out whatever information. It's a lot easier when I have it in front of me to look at. Yeah. My mind, after getting hit with steel chairs for years, it just doesn't stay in as much as it used to.
I can't even imagine. But, this is why I love doing the show. Bringing stories like Jay's. Going from growing up in Michigan to having a vision of thinking it's unattainable, and then professional wrestling, stunts, doing charity work, giving back, just awesomeness. And he embodies exactly what the drop-in is. So hopefully you took some notes. Reach out to Jay or myself if you have any questions at all. And the goal is just to inspire you to get off your couch. Life, it's not a dress rehearsal. We get one shot at this thing called life, and it is our job to make the most of it. You just heard freaking just nuts, broken back. And then, I guess I'll be a stuntman now. I don't know. I just think it's awesome, I think about that often.
I had my son is getting into skateboarding, and I was showing him some of your stuff like that. So I appreciate all the kind words, but man, I love seeing all the stuff that you do. I've been I used to be a skateboarder when I was a kid, and some of the people that Christian Hosoi and Bill Danforth, all these guys that I grew up watching, man, I'm like, that's rad to me, man. So I love watching all the stuff that you do too. And you got me involved with that the hockey thing with the kid from Troy for his Eagle Scout badge. So that's the cool thing, man. When you associate yourself with good people, you brought me into some stuff, I bring you into some stuff, and we all just have a good time and help out people.
Yeah. Well, with that, that's a great close to the show. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to, like I said, drop me a line, something you want to see, somebody you think would fit in good on the drop-in, because it's all about to inspire you, the viewer. Check out our conversations, see the goosebumps. I get them all the time. The energy is awesome, and I hope you can feel that right through the camera. But thank you so much for tuning in. This is JayRAdams.
Thank you, buddy.
I am Garold, Vallie, and this is The Drop-In.